Hello everyone, this is Just a Dad. Today I'm going to do a detailed review and show you how to make coffee with this Cuisinart Grind and Brew Plus coffee maker. Model number SS-GB1. So I just did two other videos. I did an unboxing, and that's when I went over all the dimensions. I went over all the dimensions and kind of a general feel for the coffee maker. My next video was a setup, so I ran water through it and I showed you how to install the carbon water filters. I showed you what comes in the box in the unboxing. So check out those two videos if you want to know like the exact dimensions, what comes in the box, and how to set it up for the first time. This one, I'm not going to go too much into detail on all of that. This is going to be mainly how to make coffee and the features and kind of what I think and how the coffee tastes. So this is a pretty big coffee maker from the beginning, and comes in a nice box. I got this from Amazon. It's just been released, so it's not widely available yet. Amazon just slapped a sticker on it and shipped it like this. So right now it's retailing for $200. I was able to get it on sale for $190. So it looks like it was released November 2nd of 2020. I did start seeing this earlier on in the year, and I had a viewer ask me if I would review it. And at first, I didn't think I was going to. I didn't think it would be that popular of a coffee maker, but I'm seeing now that the Cuisinarts and these higher end coffee makers from Cuisinart do tend to be pretty popular, so I thought I would give it a review. So what you get in the box, just real quick, you do get a reusable filter. This is really nice, and it does come with a few paper filters. These are 8 to 12 cup basket style filters. You get this nice measuring cup with a brush. Really nice manual. I love Cuisinart's manuals, and a quick start guide. So just from the very beginning, this is a dual purpose coffee maker. You're able to do K-cups on this side, and this just lifts up. It snaps. Now it's got like a spring, so you're not breaking it if that lifts up. That just kind of helps you lift up. Be careful, there's a sharp needle and a basket with another needle in it. The water, you have a water reservoir just for the K-cup side. It's back here. And you've got a carafe side. So this is like a standard coffee pot, but the one thing they added is the grind and brew. So you lift the lid, push this little button. It doesn't spring up or anything. You gotta lift it up, and there's your grinder. This is where you're gonna put your coffee beans. It's gonna grind it, and then it's going to shoot it. As it's grinding it, it shoots it down that little chute, down this way, and it shoots it into the filter basket. So it is kind of convenient that it does it all in one. Here's your filter basket. This is where you're going to put your filter, either the reusable filter or a paper filter. You don't put both of them in there. So this does come off. And this does separate. There is a hinge there that you can separate that. Just push it to one side and lift it up. It's got two little ears, so be careful you don't break that. But it is a good idea to make sure you've got this on there. And then it's got these little like ears that it sits on. And then this just closes. It's spring loaded, so make sure, and that's where you open it right there. So back here, we do have a window that we can see that it's grinding the coffee beans. This is where the water goes. You have a water reservoir. I show you, this is your carbon filter. Now it did come with a carbon filter. They do recommend changing that every 2 months. I show you how to set it up and install that. You gotta rinse that with some water, but it goes right there in that little opening. And you've got another one of those carbon filters over here. And they're exactly the same. And there's an opening for it to sit in down there. If you don't install them right, they float. So make sure you kind of install it and it'll be snug. This has your standard glass carafe from Cuisinart. It's not a hinge lid. You got to pop it open. It does pop open real easy. This is not their stainless steel carafe. This has a warming plate. So this will keep your coffee warm after it's done brewing. You can vary that from 0 to 4 hours. You can keep the warming plate on. So the coffee maker does shut off automatically. And it also beeps when it's done. And it's 4 beeps. And Don't know for sure yet if I can turn those off, but they were kind of annoying to my dogs. I've got it plugged in. The display's not backlit, but it's nice and big. You know, I can see it. You can turn the grinder off. The buttons light up. It's like a white light. It has a bold setting. It has an auto on. You can program this to brew you a pot of coffee in the morning. You cannot program it to brew a K-cup. Just for the pot of coffee from 4 to 12 cups. You've got a button over here. It's the Carafe. You got to select whether you're going to brew a pot of coffee or you're going to use a pod, and then it has a clean light. So I am going to do a video on how to clean this. You do want to keep up on descaling. When the clean light lights, it's time to descale your coffee maker with vinegar. I'm going to do a video on show you how to do that. And it's got this big button right here. This is what you press to start the brew. It's got an hour and a minute button to set the time. I'm going to show you how to set the time. Let's go around the side. The side does have a window to show you how much water is on the coffee maker side. Now again, these two reservoirs are independent of each other. Here we've got the reservoir for the K-cup side. It holds 40 ounces. If you overfill it, water will come out of this little hole. And if you overfill the coffee maker, water comes out there and makes a mess. There's no cord storage. So one of the complaints I did read online is there's no way to know how much water you've got on the K-cup side. Other than you do get a water light come on here. There'll be like a drop of water. That's to let you know that you're out of water on the K-cup side. So people do like it when this is kind of clear and you can see. So over here we do have this little tray that comes down. You know, this is where we're going to sit our single, when we do a single serve coffee, we're going to put it right here. It does have a tray. I go over all those dimensions in my first video. It's got a drip tray that comes out. This is all real plasticky feeling. You can put a travel mug a little taller in here. So be sure and check out my second video where I show you how to set this up and run water through it. I did get a little bit of a smell through it. You know, sometimes I don't do exactly what the instructions say. I'll just kind of brew some coffee with a brand new coffee maker. But this one I'm glad that I ran the water through it, because when I ran the water through it, I did get a little bit of smell, kind of a plasticky, new smell coming from this side. It wasn't from the K-cup side. So we're going to see how it does when I brew coffee, but I did get a little bit of smell. So make sure you follow those setup procedures. So it does have a few safety features. So if this is not snapped down, it deactivates this panel. You can't brew on the coffee maker side unless that is snapped. Same with this. This has to be installed. This is like a little safety switch here that when the lid is down, it presses. So they don't want that grinder working. So you can't put your finger in here if somebody accidentally hits the grind or the brew button. This is all made to come out. This is kind of like their standard grinder. So Cuisinart has made grind and brews for a while. This is one that has been used a lot. So this is eventually what that will look like. You do get quite a bit of coffee staining on it, but you can see how they've kind of been using this setup for a while. So again, when you've got this out, you can clean all this up, but you want to make sure and put it back. Sometimes the blade doesn't match where this goes. Like it could be turned a little bit, and it can be a little tricky to get it on there. Those blades, they are a little sharp, so be careful with that. Now this isn't the most expensive grinder that they make, but we'll show you how it does. So there are different grinders, like this is a conical burr grinder. This is more of a blade, kind of like a chop grinder. So again, my overall impression, it looks really nice, but it is a big coffee maker. It will not fit under a kitchen cabinet. Check out my next video. I am going to compare it to Cuisinart sells another coffee maker. This is a single serve coffee maker made by Cuisinart that's really, really popular. I'm going to compare it to this one. This one is quite a bit smaller. So back to the box, the biggest benefit is the fresh ground taste. You know, it does matter brewing your coffee from freshly ground beans. I do notice it does taste a little better. So that's why they're really promoting this, the grind and brew. It is fully programmable in the single cup. You can do 8, 10, and 12 ounces on the single cup side. This is a little bit misleading because sometimes, usually the controls are on this side, but they're all over here, even for the single serve side. And again, it's gonna do standard K-cups. Just a standard old K-cup. They don't have to necessarily be made by Keurig, but I'll be using these today. Okay, so let's brew a pot of coffee. I'm gonna use this. I'm gonna do a full 12 cup. I'm gonna fill this up to the 12 mark with fresh water. If I only wanted to do 6 cups, I would fill it up to the 6 cup mark and pour it in. The coffee maker brews whatever amount of water you pour in. So each time it brews, it empties this reservoir. So if I only put 6 in, it's gonna brew only 6. If I just put 4, 4, 10, I'm gonna fill it up to the 12. Okay, so I've got this filled up with water. Let's pour it in. It does have like a little trough that will direct it to the back. Yeah, looks like the trough works pretty good. Okay, so I've got it filled up. I got water up to the 12 mark. So one thing you want to be careful is, I did spill a little bit of water over here. So if you're pouring it, kind of make sure you're not going to get water, because you will get some water there. Okay, so let's open this up. Let's put, yeah, see when I spilt that water, there's where it ended up at. So you just want to be careful when you're pouring the water in. So now it comes with this. This is a reusable filter basket. These work really well, except you do get a little bit of sediment in your coffee. Not very much. Some people say it adds a lot of flavor. I tend to agree with that. I do think it adds some flavor. So we're going to use it. If you're used to using paper filters, again, this is going to take just standard 8 to 12 cup basket style coffee filters. And you just want to make sure you're getting one. Okay, so again, you're just going to put it in here. The ones that came with it are not in very good shape, but you want to make sure it's hugging the walls. So if I use one that's out of here, they come pre-formed, which helps a lot. So when you put it in here, you just want to make sure it's kind of hugging the walls. Again, you don't use both, one or the other. So I am going to use this, the reusable one. It's got this little handle. It just goes to either side. Now you can treat this like a normal coffee maker. You don't have to use the grinder every time. You can turn the grinder off. If I turn the grinder off, I can just dump my coffee here, my already pre-ground coffee that I would use for like a normal drip coffee maker. I can just dump it right here and start a brew. The grinder won't run, and I don't have to use the grinder. But for this first one, we are going to use the grinder. So I'm going to make sure that button is not on. Make sure this lid is closed, so nothing's going to go in here, but you got to make sure you put a filter. Now it's time to add the coffee beans. Now you can take this whole assembly out and add your coffee beans, or you can just take the lid off. I have found on other previous ones, when I put the coffee beans in here, sometimes I'll spill coffee beans around the side of it and they end up down in here, so it can kind of be a pain. Well, let's put our coffee beans. This sits nice and flush. Okay, so I'm going to use Dunkin' Donuts. Make sure the bag says whole bean. Now it did come with this handy little scoop. This is 1 tablespoon. So if you lose this, it's 1 tablespoon. Okay, so the manual tells us to put 1 tablespoon per cup we're going to brew. So again, since I filled this up to the 12 mark, I'm going to put 12 tablespoons of coffee grounds right in here. If I'm only going to brew 8 cups, I would do 8. If I was going to do 6, I would do 6. Miss Fiona likes to help me with my coffee reviews. She's a good girl. Okay, so I've got 12 tablespoons of coffee grounds in here. It does say you can go to a maximum of 14, but you don't want to go any more than 14. So then I'm just going to put the lid on. It's got like this square that's going to go up against here because it kind of snaps down in there. So there's my coffee beans. And it does have a max fill line, you can see. So now I've got to place this in here. Again, it does sort of fit. It's going to see it. You can even see where it's going to shoot. It's going to shoot it right into the filter basket. Okay, make sure these, you can kind of tell it's in there. That little white thing's going to pop up. That's a safety switch that the lid is going to close. That activates the grinder so that you can grind it. It's got a window. So we're going to make sure we push this down, snap it. That's very important. I've been caught a couple times of just laying it there. It looks like it's closed, but the panel is not activated. So now we're ready. We've got our water, coffee beans, and our filter basket. Again, make sure you've got a filter basket in. We're ready to brew. You got your coffee maker down here. Again, it's got that pause brewing. So there's a plunger. In the bottom of the brew basket, there's a plunger that has to get pushed up to let the coffee out. So make sure you've got your lid installed. Okay, so now if we wanted to do a bold brew, we would just press that button and that would light up. We're not going to do a bold first. We want the grinder, we want it to grind the coffee, so we want to make sure that is not lit. We're going to do a carafe, so we want to press the carafe button. That's going to light up, but I got to do one more button. This is a big on-off button. It's not 3 buttons, it's just 1 button. So I'm going to press it. That scared me. So it's grinding the coffee. It's kind of loud. It's actually pretty loud. It does it all automatically. So it stops the grinder, it shot the coffee grounds into the filter basket area, and now it's going to start heating the water. This pulsates. It's kind of turning on and off, on and off. And it's going to do that until it brews how much ever water you put in there. When it's done brewing that entire amount, the machine is going to beep at you, and they're kind of loud. I'll try to catch them on video. It's about 4 or 5 beeps. This turns blue to let you know that the warming plate is on. Now they do sell this model with a carafe, a stainless steel carafe without the warming plate. So while it's brewing this pot of coffee, I cannot brew a K-cup. Do not lift the lid, it stops the brew process. If you accidentally hit the lid, you're gonna have to hit the carafe button again and start the brew again. So just leave it alone, there's nothing really you can do. You could grab a quick cup of coffee with that pause brewing. Once it gets up to about the 4 or 5 cup mark, you can take this out, pour a quick cup and put it back. It will stop the brew process, but you're not to leave that out very long. I'm not going to be able to inspect this while it's brewing. You can't pop this open, that'll make a big mess. So we're just going to have to wait till it finishes the entire brew to inspect the filter grounds and everything. So I just want to compare this is my conical grinder, and it's not nearly as loud. It's not nearly as loud as that. You know, but the benefit of this is it does grind it, it does shoot it in there. It is all automatic for you. And you can program this, so you could, now granted that is going to be pretty loud, so at 5 in the morning, that's going to come on and that grinder is going to work really loud. And then it will start brewing your cup of coffee, your pot of coffee for you. So I'm not getting any smell from the coffee machine other than just brewing coffee. When I did my setup, I did get a little bit of plastic smell from the carafe side. I'm not getting that when I'm brewing coffee, so that's a good sign. Okay, so we're almost to the 6 cup mark. Again, it's got that pause brewing. I can take this out. That plunger will come down. You may get a drop, but I could pour a quick cup of coffee. I've got to be sure and put this back right away though. I can't leave that out for an extended period of time or it will start to overflow. So I'm trying to catch the temperature coming leaving the coffee maker, going in, it's about 185, 187 going into the coffee pot, the carafe. So we're at the 7-cup mark. It's been about 7 minutes. So it's a cup a minute. That's a pretty standard for a coffee maker. I do get a little bit of steam, nothing too bad coming up around the coffee maker. And again, it is relatively quiet. So after that initial grind, it is a pretty quiet coffee maker. Now towards the end, it does make some pops and get a little bit louder brewing. Okay, so we're getting towards the end. And again, there's that kind of popping sound. That's pretty standard for a Cuisinart. And kind of it is a little bit louder. Again, this is pulsing the whole time that it's brewing. It's going to turn steady blue here in a minute, and the warming plate will stay on. And we can adjust how long that warming plate stays on, but default is 2 hours. The default might be 4 hours. Let me check. So towards the end, I do get quite a bit more steam coming up here. It does kind of cover the display a little bit. Okay, so there's the beeps, and it turns a pretty blue. That lets us know that the coffee is done brewing, but my warming plate is going to stay on for however long I've got it programmed for. So I can take this out. I got my full pot of coffee. Again, be careful, that will be hot. Let's see how this pours. Okay, that pours pretty good. Let's check a temperature real quick. Go to Fahrenheit. 180. That's a really hot cup of coffee. 180. Okay, so I have to add my cream and sugar, and it's a really hot cup of coffee. If you want hot coffee, that's an extremely hot cup of coffee. And it tastes really good. That's a really good cup of coffee. I don't have any sense of plastic smell or anything. I know originally when I did my cleaning setup, I had kind of a plastic smell, but I don't have any of that taste or anything. It tastes like a really good cup of coffee. So if this will shut the warming plate off after however long I've got it programmed. 4 hours is the default, I think. But if I want to turn the warming plate off now, say you're done and you're leaving, you can just come up here and hit the off button. Again, this is just one button. That will turn that blue light off, and the coffee maker is done. It's not going to keep it warm anymore. So let's see how it did. And be careful. Here's that. Okay, let's lift our lid. Wow, did a really good job. I am super impressed. I have seen some grind and brews that it doesn't, like, there'll be some coffee grounds over here that didn't get wet. This actually did a pretty good job. Now they are kind of mounded a little bit here, not too bad. You do have some fines and some. I'm very impressed. It did not overflow the filter basket either. And it looks like it didn't even come close. There's our coffee filter. So we had a long way to go. If the water rises above this, then it will start to overflow the filter basket and you'll get coffee grounds in your coffee. But it looks like the water only got up to right about here. Very, very impressive. So let's open this up. Now you do get quite a bit again, this is hot, so be careful. But you do get quite a bit of steam up in here, and that's what makes these kind of hard to clean. You do have to clean these after every use and dry them. But there's what it did. But they have designed this in such a way that that's all you have to clean. So I am gonna take this over to the trash or recycle those coffee grounds. I could even, take this over there. That way it wouldn't drip. But this is what you've got to clean, which isn't too bad considering what this coffee maker does. Okay, so let's go over cleanup real quick. It does say all of these are dishwasher safe. All of these parts, top rack only. So, but I definitely, if you definitely throw this in the dishwasher, you are going to get some coffee. So I might rinse these off really good first. And this does come apart. If you hold this to one side, they got little bitty ears, so be careful. I can see where that would break, but you got to hold the lid at a 90-degree angle. That's the trick. Hold it at a 90-degree angle. You get more throw with it, and it should, yeah, there. So then it comes off, and there's those little ears. And be careful when you've got it in the dishwasher, sometimes that little plastic ring will come off, and then you lose your spring and your plunger. So be careful. So on this lid, be careful. There's these two little springs. I'm not sure if these, I don't know that I would take that apart very much, but this little thing fits on there and snaps on. It's got some kind of springs. So again, here's all the parts. Cleanup is going to be very important each time. I just rinse these off, and again, you can throw these in the dishwasher top rack. Okay, so I am going to go on to the K-Cup side, but this is going to be kind of a long video. I may do the clock and program it in a separate video, but I also want to brew it in a basket, in a filter, just to make sure it doesn't overflow. So I will brew in a basket. I do want to brew it with the bold setting, but let's switch over to the K-Cup side. Again, fill your reservoir up. It does have a max setting there. Don't fill it above that max setting. One of the complaints people had was there's no way to see how much water, but again, you do have a teardrop, or like a water drop, that shows you when this is empty. So again, you just lift this up. We're going to put a K-Cup in here. You just set it there. I let the machine do all the work. Now, some people, you can press this on to that bottom needle. You can do that if you'd like. What that does is it pierces the bottom of the K-Cup with that needle right there. So just, let's see, when I do it with the machine, it will do both. Let's open it up. See how it pierced the top and the bottom, yeah. So again, just put the K-Cup in there. It doesn't have to be, it can be any way, just not upside down. Put the K-Cup in there, press this down. We're gonna hit the pod. Now, each time you hit the pod button, the ounces change. That's how you change the ounces. This will do 8, 10, or 12 ounces each time I press this. So I like to do 8 ounces. Let's do 8. Again, make sure you got your cup down here. And we're simply going to press this button. This is the button that started our brew process. The button is kind of pulsing. And then it should, in pretty short order, start brewing a K-Cup. Okay, so then in about a minute, you start hearing the pump. It's not really loud on the K-Cup side. Okay, here we got coffee coming out. A little hard to get the exact temperature. About 183, 180. I saw 183, 181. So you can see there's where the coffee is coming out. It looks pretty strong too. That's a dark roast I did, I think. It's not super loud. The pod light is on. Okay, sorry about that. UPS guy came, dogs barked. But it does beep at you when it's done with the K-Cup. And you do end up with a cup of coffee that is about 160. It's cooled off just a little bit, so it might have been about 165. Okay, so I'm tasting the coffee. It brews a really good single cup of coffee. You just can't go any lower than 8 ounces. 10 ounces might be pretty watered down for a K-Cup. I like to do my K-Cups. There's 2 tablespoons of coffee in here. I like to do mine on 8 ounces, but some people like 6 ounces. So this machine does not do 6 ounces. 8 ounces is the minimum. So let's take the K-Cup out. We just lift the handle. So I did get a little bit of water on top. Be careful, these can be hot. Okay, so I do like to cut my K-Cups open. See how the machine did? Looks like they're all pretty saturated. So it looks like it did about what a standard single needle Keurig does. So again, be careful with these needles. I am going to do, if your K-Cup side stops working, I am going to do how to remove this bottom needle basket. You just poke it from the bottom and it does come out like that. I'm going to show you how to clean the needle. There's nothing sharp at the bottom here, but you need to take this apart and clean the needle. I'll show you how to clean the top needle in a separate video. So again, on the K-cup side, when this water reservoir gets empty, or pretty low, that comes on. It will not let me do a pod when that water light is on right there. So I cannot brew anything. When I press the pod button, nothing happens. Okay, so this bold setting is just for the carafe side. So I tried doing a bold with the pod, and it makes you think, but once you press the start button, the bold goes away. And it does not brew a strong brew or a bold brew on the K-cup side. This is merely always going to be one setting, either 8, 10, or 12 ounces, but no bold on the K-cup side. Now, while you're brewing a K-cup, if for some reason you need to stop it, you can press this button. It will stop the K-cup side short. So that would be one way to do 6 ounces. You could press the stop button. Okay, I'm going to show you how to set the time. So when these Cuisinarts lose power for more than 10-15 seconds, you lose your time and your auto brew. So to set the time, it can't be brewing coffee or anything, so it has to be plugged in, but don't be brewing anything. You're going to come up here and these are hours and minutes. But fortunately, when you press them just a little bit, nothing happens. You got to hold this one in, or the minutes. It'll start flashing. When it's flashing, now press the hour button and the minute button to set your time. Now this only has a PM light. So if you want AM, like right now it is it's 11, gotta go back through. Oh, I missed it again. But then you press the minutes. So when you get your time set, just stop, it'll stop flashing and it'll memorize the time. Okay, now the time is memorized. Again, this has a self-clean feature. If your clean light comes on, it's time to clean it with vinegar. I'm going to do a whole separate video on that, but if that clean light starts to come on, that's telling you that the machine is time to clean. Again, I'm going to do a bold here in a minute. That's the bold. And again, if I want to start a brew without the grinder coming on, I can press that button. And I got to press that each time. And then when I hit the brew button, it just will start the brew. Well, I got to hit the carafe side. It'll start a brew without the grinder. But I'm going to cancel that. So this auto on only works for the carafe side. So the auto on feature is you're going to press the button and you're going to hold it. It's going to flash its time. Now I'm going to set the auto on using these right here. This is what time I want it to come on in the morning. So if I want it to come on again, it only has a PM. So if I want it to come on at 5:10 a.m., it's going to stop flashing and it'll memorize that time. Now the auto on button is on. That means it's set. When I go to bed, if that light is lit, you're good to go. This thing will start brewing. Make sure you've got your coffee beans, your coffee filter, and your water in. This thing will start that grinder and brew you a pot of coffee. Now, if you don't want the grinder to go, press that button, put your coffee grounds in here already ground, and you'll be okay. But make sure that's off if you want the coffee grinder to work. If you want the bold, it will do a bold in the morning. Press the bold button. But when you go to bed, make sure that auto on button is on. You don't press this button or anything. Now, if you want to cancel the auto on, press that button. So this video is getting pretty long. It's 33 minutes. I am going to do part 2 of this detailed review. I did put a link to this in my show description. I am an Amazon affiliate. If you do click on that link, I do get a little bit of money from it. It's a way you can support me. I buy all my own products. The products don't cost you anymore, but I do get a little bit for people clicking on the links. Thanks everybody for your support. Again, I'm going to do several more videos. I'm also going to compare it to this Cuisinart, which looks like it does the same thing, except it does not grind. So thanks everybody for watching. Check out part 2. And thanks for watching. And if you could, please like and subscribe.